Donald Trump has urged what he called Iranian patriots to keep protesting against the regime, saying help is on the way, as the United States warned its citizens living in Iran to leave the country immediately. The warning follows briefings to the president on potential US strike targets against the Islamic Republic, with officials confirming Mr. Trump is weighing military options while also exploring diplomatic channels with Tehran. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said airstrikes were one of the many options on the table, but stressed that diplomacy remains Mr. Trump's preferred route.
Well, I think one thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table, and airstrikes would be one of the many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately, and I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages.
Mr. Trump has been briefed by the Pentagon on possible targets for a fresh strike, the Times reported on Sunday. However, officials indicated any action would be more likely directed at Iranian security forces linked to the violent crackdown on protesters rather than the country's nuclear or ballistic missile programs. Ms. Leavitt added, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary.
The president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran.
The warning comes as the US virtual embassy in Iran issued an urgent alert to Americans living in the country, telling them to leave Iran now. The notice warned of continued internet disruptions and advised US citizens to consider leaving by land via Armenia or Turkey. Those unable to leave were told to shelter in secure locations with adequate supplies. Speaking on Sunday, Mr. Trump said Iran's leadership had overstepped the mark following reports of mounting deaths during the unrest.
There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent, if you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
According to Norway-based group Iran Human Rights, at least 648 protesters, including 9 children, have been killed since demonstrations began on December 28, with thousands more injured. On Monday night, Mr. Trump announced new tariffs targeting countries that continue to trade with Iran, escalating economic pressure on Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's regime. Writing on Truth Social, he said, effective immediately, any country doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all business being done with the United States of America. The measures are expected to impact China, Brazil, Turkey, and Russia. Tehran has yet to respond, while China said it opposes any illicit unilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade, and in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind. The more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
We start with the situation in Iran. The Foreign Secretary has condemned the killing of protesters in Iran in the strongest possible terms. Reports emerging from the country that around 2,000 people may now have been killed during the regime's deadly crackdown, more than was previously thought. Tehran says the dead include security forces, and it's blamed what it calls terrorists, as an internet blackout makes it impossible to verify the true death toll. President Trump has in the last half an hour called upon demonstrators in Iran to keep protesting. He's urged them to take over their institutions, save the names of their killers and abusers, promising that those people will pay a big price. Trump says he's cancelled all meetings with Iranian officials until the crackdown stops. He's also been briefed on covert and military options, including missile strikes and cyber attacks. Now, Iran says it's open for talks, but is prepared for war as pressure mounts over what European leaders now call the regime's final days and weeks. Yvette Cooper, in a statement to the House, praised the bravery of protesters and has condemned the regime.
The regime peddles its manufactured narrative of foreign manipulation and seeks to portray peaceful protesters as criminals and terrorists, all the while pursuing a brutal and relentless crackdown on its own people. The United Kingdom condemns in the strongest of terms the horrendous and brutal killing of Iranian protesters, and we demand that the Iranian authorities respect the fundamental rights and freedoms of their citizens.
And Matthew Hurt, we have live pictures on our screens there. That is, of course, Donald Trump's helicopter. I believe he is alighting that craft now. Here he comes. So Donald Trump is getting off Marine One, and the conversation now is all about Iran. All eyes on Iran. Donald Trump has said if the Ayatollah kills protesters, he will strike back. There was a Truth Social post not so long ago saying help is coming. A lot of people saying Donald Trump has the opportunity now to strike perhaps something that should have been done decades and decades ago, a dereliction of duty by Barack Obama, by President Joe Biden. Now could be the time to take out the Ayatollah.
Well, as President Obama and President Biden showed, the American government under a progressive government would boost and bolster the Iranian regime. My heart breaks for the people of Iran and the Persian diaspora, millions of Iranians across the globe who yearn for freedom and opportunity. President Trump and this administration have shown that they are willing to enable attacks within Iran to destroy nuclear facilities and sites. And I think this is certainly another option that's on the table as we seek to boost and help the people of Iran who want desperately out from under the grip of the Ayatollah.
Matthew, don't you think it's incredibly hypocritical that at the Golden Globes, for example, none of the celebrities were supporting the oppressed Iranian people, particularly the women there who've lived under an oppressive Islamist regime since 1979. They can be imprisoned for removing their hijabs, imprisoned for speaking out against the patriarchal, misogynistic Islamist regime there. Completely silent on that. They'd happily speak out about Gaza, about ICE agents, about everything. And the sheer hypocrisy of the liberal movement takes my breath away. And here we have now a president actually putting Western interests first, because Western interests will be best served by the removal of the Islamist regime. It's fueling all the unrest in Venezuela, in all around the world. Iran is the head of the snake.
Well, Western feminists have done everything in their power to silence or ignore the voices of the women of Iran and women in Venezuela and women in other countries that have seen authoritarian regimes control what they can and cannot do, control their freedom. It is the highest level of hypocrisy to see Hollywood or anyone in the media, leftists and feminists in particular, who ignore the cries of women around the world, in Iran in particular right now, and say those aren't important. We want to, from the river to the sea, Gaza will be free is really the only thing they can say. They don't really care about the plight of actually oppressed women and peoples around the world.
Matthew, you're a superb guest. Thank you very, very much for coming on. I've enjoyed the conversation. Please don't be a stranger. Republican strategist Matthew Hurt, thanks for joining today on GB News. Thank you.